Okay.
I'll talk while you go get your phone.
No, I got to do makeup with Stephanie.
Okay.
I got to pull the...
All right. He's got a poll. He's going to poll. You know, I want to talk again about... Ow.
Wow, there's so many of these. And
Oh, this one's empty.
carrying it empty.
Anyways. Well, it's almost there, but...
Try that one.
This one. I want to pull this one. It's the candy stick again that's all salty when you lick it.
How many times I've got that spark plug and
like
the candy stick are the ones I pull all the time.
I'm not gonna put them back. For now on, I'm not gonna put them back.
2 out of 17, and I keep pulling 2 of the same ones
I know,
each
but
time.
now I'm down 1. But I've got to replenish. I got to add more. But I want to talk more on the LOLE. Go to LOLE.com. Check out his stuff today because he's going to be launching in about a month his Moon Rock Moon Ring, which is going to be amazing. Are you going to buy your girlfriend one? He is, because he needs to. And now it's on camera. So you're welcome. No, go to LOLE.com or go to LOLE on his Instagram page. And if you leave a comment on how you feel about that ring, you can get 10% off your purchase. And I have this moon ring on. And he has these little stackables. These are in gold. He has silver. Oh, now you're going to do it. In gold, silver, and he has like a really pretty rose gold and a dark metal one. It's really cool. I was explaining LOLE.com. We love him. He's great.
Did a very good
And
job.
tell him we sent you. We love you, LOLE. That's what I miss.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on IE Newswire on Facebook Live and YouTube on a Wicked Wednesday. On that. Just when you seem, you're thinking, well, maybe one day we're just going to get a day when there's just absolutely nothing going on.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we could get a break.
No.
You're exactly right.
That's what the universe is saying.
There's a
not no, but hell no.
Yes, of that. It just seems like every day we get more and more each and every day. It seems like, what else could go wrong in all this stuff? I mean, what's up?
You're jinxing it.
Well, because it just gets more bizarre. I think every day. I mean, it's not even like Groundhog Day anymore, where every day's repeating itself. It just seems like we're just again. It just seems. Well, you're thinking, well, how can it get any worse?
But at least it's like it's keeping you on your toes. People
well,
were complaining they
yes.
were bored. I mean, are you bored now? Well, yeah, you probably are because you're locked inside still. Are we supposed to be locked inside still? I don't even know what's going on with that anymore. Are we still doing that? Do we know?
No.
Things are starting to open up, though, right?
Well, yeah, but now we're getting the whole enchilada, and we'll cover that in a little bit.
Damn enchiladas, man.
Arizona's getting all wound up. They had a few cases. The cases are increasing, and they're all, oh, well, we got to bring back the mask, and they're talking of locking down again and all that stuff.
I'm telling you, and I don't want to jinx it, and I'm sorry if I pissed anybody off by saying this, but we're going to go into lockdown again. Don't you think? Yeah, I mean, you've predicted all of this pretty, on point.
I wish I could dispute you on that, but I'm not, because I think I'm ever afraid, and we'll have Dr. Kelly Victory on tomorrow at 5:30, and maybe we'll dig into this deeper. But yes, this is the whole wave, and it talks a little bit about what's been going on of that. Go back to the beginning of this, and they talked about flattening the curve, and that was the reason why we had to do the lockdown and not to overwhelm the hospitals. But the subset of that was he said it's not going to affect the amount of cases that were eventually going to happen. You're just going to stretch it out, make it different, maybe so the hospitals don't get overwhelmed. People don't die unnecessarily by not having a hospital bed or care or ventilator. I mean, how many times did we? The one fortunate thing, though, is we're not hearing the word ventilator 27,000 times a day.
Or we're all in this together. Or we're social distancing.
Yes.
That one was bugging me.
It's funny how we're all in this together just dissipated with all the rioting and the Black Lives Matter and all that. But I digress. Back to the point. That's what's going on in Arizona. Governor Doug Ducey. Was that a Freudian slip?
Yeah.
Of that
poor guy. It's probably happened to
no, he just came out today that because cases are going up in Arizona, and we'll I'm looking for the stories on that right now. But it's just like you have in Marin County, which is greater San Francisco area. In the last week, cases in coronavirus cases went up in Marin County by 80%. Now, how would you react to that?
I mean, I can't say the word, so I would think it's a lie.
That's sensational. You're thinking, wow, something's going on. Coronaviruses in Marin County went up 80%.
Yeah, that's BS.
Yeah.
I would be yelling at the TV while hearing that.
So, the week before, they had 5 cases of coronavirus. This week, or the prior week, they had 5 cases. The next week, they had 9 cases. Well, that is going up 80%. But whatever there is in Marin County, 1 million people or whatever, 5 to 9 out of 1 million people is like statistically nothing. That isn't even relevant on the statistics scale. But if you just say cases went up 80% in Marin County, you'd think, oh wow, man, there's 1 million people here. And they've been talking about coronavirus. We're all going to die. Blah 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 blah. Cases are going up 80%. Wow, when it went from 5 to 9.
Right.
This is what's going on, and they're trying to tie it because Arizona, opened up fairly early on that. But this is in Market Watch. The surge in coronavirus cases in some states isn't part of a second wave. Jamie Lee writes, many of the predictions for a second wave that have anticipated that would hit in the fall, if it does occur, either due to a change in the season or people spending more time indoors, where the virus is thought to be more easily transmitted. The recent surge of COVID-19 cases in states like Arizona and Texas are not indicative of a second wave of infections, but are part of an initial rolling wave of cases that recently impacted hard-hit places like New York, Illinois, New York, and New Jersey. COVID-19 cases count continues to rise in some states that had previously reported few infections. There's some confusion about whether these upticks are part of the predicted second wave of infections. They are not. When you think about a wave as an ocean, it comes to a shore and recedes, and then another wave comes in, says Dr. Leanna Wen, emergency physician and public health professor at George Washington University. She said by email, by that way of thinking, we are in the second wave because we are still in the first wave. Since the earliest days of the COVID-19 pandemic, experts have warned that viruses similar to coronavirus often return more than once. The Center of Infectious Disease Research and Policy of Health Preparedness Organizations are part of the University of Minnesota predicted early in May 3 scenarios for COVID-19, all which would see a return of the virus in 2020 and potentially again in 2021 in communities that had reported previous outbreaks. So, we have said this. Flattening the curve did not change the amount of
we
cases.
knew that as soon as they opened everything, it would start spreading again.
Yes. You were either going to take the initial hit and be done with it or spread it out. But either way, as we are seeing, you're not going to stop the ultimate way this thing is going to work. And who
we don't want to see anybody get it, but
well, actually, we
it's gonna
do.
go around. Well,
That's how you get the herd
not
immunity.
the people that might not.
So it
surpass
eventually
it
dies out.
or get over it, but I think like when like there's a cold going around the house and like the first person that gets it super sick, second person not as bad, third person it's like they barely even knew they had anything. Like maybe it won't be as bad as they thought it would be when it comes around again the second time.
Further quoting from the article, some experts would describe it as an increase in cases separated by 4 to 8 weeks in low numbers as a second wave. However, cases occur after a lockdown are typically considered a second wave. They are considered part of the first wave. Dr. Michael Ornstrom, CIDRAP director, said in an email. So there you go. We are still in a lot of places in the first wave. I think most of California hit a second wave because I think we had it first back in November and December, January, when everybody was getting sick and they didn't know what it was.
Right.
And then we know the first death now recorded in California by going back and digging up some of the corpses. It was right around the 1st of February. So we probably are in a second wave. It probably already went through there. California's probably already hit the second wave, but some of these other states that never did hit that, they're still in the first wave deal. But they got hit where the social distancing and the masking and all that didn't let it spread. So now they're going to have a prolonged deal. Do you want this thing to come back when it's cold, when it will spread exponentially faster?
No.
Or do you want it to let it go now and let it run its course and do what it's going to do and be done with it?
You know what I want to do?
What?
Stop talking about it.
Well,
I
I would love to too, but
know.
the way we have set it up, we are not going to be, because we are going to have to be still dealing with it, and we're going to have to be dealing with the insane
No,
policies.
but I'm just tired of talking about it. It's going to spread. You're going to get sick.
Yes.
Let's move on.
That's exactly right. And I don't know what it is that people don't understand about this.
I don't know. How do you build your immune system? Like oranges. Everybody needs to work on that. Blueberries, like Roy's always eating on the show when he shouldn't be.
Yes.
I keep telling him to stop eating.
I can't.
I know. And he has like nothing on him. It pisses me off. Anyways. It's annoying.
Oh boy. No, it's ridiculous of what goes on all this stuff, back and forth on the deal, the up and forth on what. Look at the sound. I'm hitting the yellow one there, but
it just snaps like we know.
Yeah.
What all that means.
So when you
Don't know
look
what
at
that
this
means?
stuff, yes, on the deal on that, you're the insanity of what we're doing on that is just crazy. And then we have the other totally insane thing that's going on with the Chaz Chop, occupation up there in Seattle. So we're going to go back to, this is in the Seattle Times. There was an incident up there. So we're going to start with the second one first. This is in the Seattle Times of that. No cop-free zone.
I just want to see how many
on the Seattle Chief Police says officers are responding to Chop with caution. Videos posted on social media early Monday show a group of protesters toppling a chain-link fence outside an auto repair shop in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood after business owner reportedly called 911 repeatedly to report a break-in and fire, but no police officers responded to the scene. A message left for John McDermott, owner of Car Tenders in the 1700 block of 12th Avenue, was not immediately returned on Monday. The location of the shop between East Olive and Hobo Streets appears to be just outside the boundaries of Capitol Hill organized protest Chop. previously known as the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone centered around the Seattle's police department. KIRO 7 reported that McDermott called 911 to report a break-in and that his son detained a suspect who stole money and keys and set fire to the front counter that McDermott and his sons quickly doused. According to the TV station, McDermott called the 911s more than a dozen times and said police never showed up and armed protesters insisted that they release the suspect, which they did to avoid potential violence. Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best, speaking outside Seattle Police Headquarters Monday afternoon, said police received 911 of someone breaking windows with a hammer and caller reported business was on fire. The officers responded to the call, and they observed from a location from a distance. They did not see any signs of smoke, fire, or anything they did not see disturbance. Officers did not observe from the report that I read anything perceived to life, safety, and they did not go in, Best said. So, we're going to look at the, this is the KIRO video coming on. We're going to show you that coming up here on the deals. So, when you see it, that's why I wanted to read that story first.
This is in Seattle, as it was broken into overnight by protesters in the CHOP area, that someone tried to start a fire and stole cash. And despite multiple 911 calls, police and fire never showed up. KIRO 7's Dee Dee's son is live on Capitol Hill with us this afternoon with the very latest. Dee Dee?
Well, Michelle, we're just about a half block away from the occupied zone, and you can actually see some tents behind me. But I saw multiple videos of protesters knocking over this fence last night. I'm told the person who originally broke in got inside, through a smashed window back over there, and then started that small fire. And despite more than a dozen 911 calls, nobody ever came. A break-in at Car Tender, an auto shop just outside the Capitol Hill occupied protest zone. Video from Sean Guy on Twitch shows some of the commotion, but even this
Does
is
that
after
look like
the
no
situation settled
disturbance is
down.
going on?
John McDermott says he got a call last night saying someone got inside his business after smashing this window.
Broke into the building, had set fire to the front counter.
Film is super flammable.
Right.
So he put hand sanitizer all over this and all over the counter and lit it on fire.
He says the suspect took cash and keys.
And I chased him down, and as soon as I came face to face with him, he came at me, and so I put him on the ground.
This is John's son.
At some point, he cut me with tried to cut me with a box cutter, but it just caught my pants. And then
John tells me he kept trying to call 911 all night.
I'm told it was 19 times. Finally said that they weren't going to send it somebody. Heartbroken. I mean, they are the cavalry.
With protesters demanding it, they let the suspect go.
It was either that or they were coming over and it was going to turn into mayhem beyond mayhem.
Later, video shows protesters speaking with the owner of Car Tender.
Sorry about the break-in.
John says the protesters were armed, and so was his son. Thankfully, no one here got seriously hurt.
It could have really gotten out of hand.
They say they agree with the core of the protest,
The goal is to make the changes.
I think there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
but say this, with no first responders coming after more than a dozen 911 calls, is unacceptable.
Nobody shows up when literally our lives are on the lines. I think our mayor and governor need to get their act together. They need to come up with a plan because this is beyond a protest.
Do you feel your business is still under threat?
Clearly, yeah. Absolutely.
I asked SPD about this. They emailed me saying they did respond, but the business owners and protesters I talked with say they never saw an officer. I also caught up with Fire Chief Harold Scoggins, who stopped by the business here. He says that when they're inside the zone, they actually need SPD approval before responding, but this business is outside the CHOP or Chaz zone, and so they should have been able to respond, and they're investigating what happened here last night and why no one came. Live in Capitol Hill, Dee Dee's son, KIRO 7 News.
So there you go. Does that look like does that look like there was no disturbance going on? There was nothing going on?
At the same time, not that I agree with it, and I don't at all, but why would they want to go out right now with the way the world is? What would happen if they go out there?
Are supposed
I know,
to
but what would
do.
happen if they go out there? People want to get rid of the cops, and they call the cops.
They are, well, let's put
Like
it.
the Wendy's that got burnt down. They couldn't send in the fire department because they couldn't get in. So they just had to let it burn. Like, what would happen? What would happen if a police officer went out there?
They should be dissipating.
They should be. They would be. They would
threat.
try, but
If they do not want the job, then
that's
they
so
should
sad, though.
quit.
That man looked like he wanted to cry.
Exactly. What? And
It's heartbreaking.
and
I'm
maybe
not saying it's not.
not
but
saying we should defund the police, but if the police are not going to respond to situations like this, then why do we need the police?
That's a good question.
I mean, you want to take it the other way of the other side, or the Chaz protesters burning down, saying the cops are corrupt, that is that. But if the cops are not going to respond to these situations, which they are supposed, that's what we pay them to do.
Where was that
In
at?
Seattle, it's a block away from the Chaz chop zone.
Isn't
They
that-
went down. They went out of their little sanctuary and busted this guy's business.
But is that the same area where they're trying to get rid of the police officers? Where
Yes.
They don't want them.
Well, yeah, that's where the Chaz area, the 7-block area, where they said this is our own country and they're doing all
Right.
the thing up there. This is, as the story said, this is a block away from there. They came out of their sanctuary and now they're wanting to rob, loot, and assault other businesses outside of that. And you've seen the situation of that. And then for the police chief to say, we didn't see, the cops didn't see anything going on, we didn't go in. Well, no.
But you have to also see their perspective. They've been seeing riots and protests going on forever. So maybe when they did drive by, maybe there wasn't anything going on. I mean, they were going up there and the people were saying, I'm sorry for vandalizing your place, which, I mean, maybe there was a moment where they weren't crazy. Maybe not all of them are crazy. Maybe just one lunatic jumped the fence and broke his window. I mean, you don't know the situation. Media lies about crap all the time. You're going to believe that one story?
Yeah, but why would there be a whole crowd of people standing? Let's just
There's
say,
been whole crowds of people standing everywhere.
why would they be doing that in front of that businesses, and why would one person?
But why was
just-
his one business the target?
Why would, and that's why I say, why would the lynch mob, if you want to call it that, or mob, or whatever you want to call it, going across there, why were they out of their little capital of it, and why were they in that area? If they were
People
not
are
planning
insane
on
these
doing
days,
that.
and
Yes.
they're just wacko.
And that's,
But I'm just saying, maybe when the police officers did drive by, maybe it wasn't.
well, yeah, if you were.
I mean, they were all standing
after
there.
the situation, well, yeah, we
Everything
don't.
that's been going on in the world, I mean, a group of people is not abnormal these days.
if they did-
screaming and yelling and hitting, like kicking things.
Yeah, if they drove by 3 hours later, after the whole incident was over, well, yeah, nobody's there. I mean, you can go to that point when, they did not,
And how many police officers do they have in that city now that haven't quit, got fired, whatever? Maybe there's not enough people, and they're just trying to cover it up. Chief's not going to admit we don't have enough police officers in a city that's already insane. I mean, we can go on forever about this.
well,
I feel bad for the owner, though. That's all right.
Yes, and we should.
My heart goes out to him and his son. Good for them for standing out there and taking it on. But they were out there taking it on, too. So it couldn't have been that bad if they're standing out there talking with these people. Right?
Well, because they had
I know, but they're standing out there talking
at
with
least
them,
his
so it's
son
not
had
like,
a firearm to defend himself and got one of the perpetrators in that stuff. And
But if they were that crazy, insane, and disruptive, he wouldn't be out there just having a conversation with them. But good for him for doing that anyways, because I would have ran crying.
But no, it goes back to the thing is what, if the police force is incapable of defending the citizens that it's sworn duty to do, to that, then, it's an interesting question on the flip side of what is...
Well, you don't blame them right now for being like...
Well, I've been blaming him from not going in on all the protests in the beginning and not stomping this stuff out. Oh, I guess I did. This is another one talking about defunding the police. They had at Valverde and Moreno Valley Unified School District Tuesday, they had a meeting about, talking about defunding the police on that, I actually sent in a video, a 3-minute video in public comments, and I haven't been able to check it. But as I tune into Bo Yarborough's great column in the Press Enterprise, I see myself quoted in there. So they had a meeting. They were talking about a discussion item of defunding. Or
Can we all stop putting him in the newspaper? It makes his head like.
The Moreno Valley Unified School District put a deal on because some groups, the ACLU, NAACP, I think, were calling for defunding the cops in the schools, and they put it up for a discussion item on there. So that's what. Let's see, what's the headline in the Press Enterprise article, number 4? Moreno Valley area schools ponder cutting police funding. Moreno Valley and Valverde school boards both brought up their issue Tuesday at the June 16th meetings. Moreno Valley area schools are wondering whether paying for on-campus police is the best use of their money. So we got, we run into the whole thing of that. But this is where we are concerned about the lasting harm and negative impact there being arrested by minor problems used to be handled by school administration. Sharon Lewis of the NAACP of Riverside County. We must stand up against any practices that push our youth into prison rather than college and careers. Well, there are situations that get out of hand. And when there are those situations that get out of hand and something happens, who are the first ones to holler about, well, why didn't you do something? If you don't have the cops there, then we're doing. Others supported keeping the deputies on campus. Probably one of the worst ideas I've heard yet, Roy Bleckert said. Ask yourself this question. What's going to happen when there are no school resource officers in our school and a school shooting happens? So I have said this many times. JoLynn Neal, she's the president of the California School Employees Association, which is the non-classified or employees, the union head of all the ones in Moreno Valley Unified School District that are not teachers or administrators. The janitors, the food, the guys that do the landscaping and everything else. You will probably ask, if you ask JoLynn Neal, she's probably in a few years ago, probably didn't have the highest opinion of me.
I don't think she does still.
Well, I don't know about that, because I told her one day, I said, you know what, you agree with me more than you think of that. In the past couple of years, we've really become fairly, we've talked a lot about this and seen a lot of things eye to eye. So this is what JoLynn Neal says.
Please.
In the Please Run the Deal. JoLynn Neal, president of Moreno Valley Unified Chapter of the California School Employees Association, represents non-teaching employees, said her union opposed defunding the program. So JoLynn is in agreement with me that this is not a great idea of that. Now, see what happens when you work together and you work together on common ground ideas? This is how you get things solved. It's not the police in the campus, and I go back to the meetings at Landmark and the things that happened after the tragic death of Diego at Landmark Middle School. And it was the couple of the school resource officers that were actually finally telling the whole story at the meetings and what was going on in the schools. And I think that provided positive change of what policies that needed to be done. Now, some of those resource officers got quickly moved out of that, and Moreno Valley Unified School District about 2 or 3 months ago was saying, well, we shouldn't arrest kids and going across us, where Parish Union, Murrieta, Temecula didn't have any problem with the school resource officers in there. So this has been, kind of a contentious issue in Moreno Valley School District between the administration and the Sheriff's Deputies Department and how to handle these situations. But as I could see, I don't think at this particular time, especially, we want to be taking the school resource officers out of our school districts at this particular time.
Not right now. I mean, no one knows what the school's going to look like next year, so, I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, what if nobody there is?
1 minute.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, guys. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, Ron.
I don't know if you guys heard, but the latest, we lost Aunt Jemima, but now did you hear Cracker Jacks is now going to be called Caucasian Jacks?
Oh my gosh.
Are you serious?
I don't know if that's serious or not, but I just thought.
I hope that's not serious.
Where to get stuff going?
I hope not either.
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, we're gonna have to check that one.
Of that, well, and I mean, I wouldn't necessarily. In most cases, I would think, well, yeah, you're telling a funny story, but you never know.
Yeah. Nowadays, hey,
no, these days, in these insane times, you never know if that could be possibly correct. On that. I mean, we're dealing with so much madness as we were talking about on that. About now our school districts, some of our local school districts are talking about getting rid of this. School resource cops out of the school.
10 seconds. Oh, yeah, great. That's going to really do wonders.
Oh, yeah.
5 seconds.
We go. Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
That funky slide guitar music comes on every Monday through Friday at 5:30 on the Mighty Hit 1490 KMET.
Wow, if you weren't awake, you are now.
On a Wicked Wednesday.
Also, go to our YouTube channel. Did you throw that one out there?
YouTube and Facebook Live on
and
IE
you can
Newswire.
go to KMET1490am.com and download the app today for all your Android and Apple devices so you don't miss Roy's charming voice. That was such a lie. That was hard to say. Anyways, carry on. Take your show back.
Wow. See the things I have to deal with on a weekly basis?
You want me to list the things I have to deal with on a daily basis? Just kidding. Hi, Ann. I really do like your son sometimes. Not too much, though. Anyways, carry on.
Why should I carry on? After all that. The officer, former Atlanta cop who fatally shot Rayshard Brooks was charged with murder here about a couple hours ago on that. So we'll see what that. He's facing 11 charges, including felony murder after fatally shooting Rayshard Brooks. During an arrest last week, officers received a call that somebody had passed out their car in a drive-thru at Wendy's and found Brooks sleeping behind the wheel. We've all went through that situation and that's just another one of our insane things that's been going on through this. We went through in our first half hour, so if you didn't catch it, go, as the aforementioned Stephanie said, check it out on IE Newswire Live on Facebook, YouTube. And we also, and we don't mention this, but we replay the show on IE Newswire at 8 o'clock every, now Tuesday through Saturday on that. And that gets a pretty good audience and doing that. So if you miss us during that and you're cruising the old net at 8 o'clock in the morning, tune us in on the replay Tuesday through Friday at 8 o'clock on IE Newswire.
Or you can go straight to the page too and just hit the replay on that YouTube and on KMET1490am.com. You can go back and replay on there as well.
Right. When we always have it on Facebook, we always have it pinned to the top of the page, so you can check us out anytime.
Or you can just give Roy and he'll just talk your ear off.
Thanks a lot. As we usually do once a week, we have the increasingly ever famous columnist, editorial writer in the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Redlands Daily Facts, Inland Daily Bulletin, and 5,000 newspapers all across Southern California, but more important in my mind, Vice President of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to the IE Newswire Daily with Stephanie and Roy.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Stephanie. Missed you last time.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Most people, yeah, because most people don't say that about me.
Nobody ever does. Just kidding.
We've been going insane, and we talked a little bit about it the first hour on that. And I don't know if you saw the report in Seattle where the father and son that had an auto repair business about a block away from the Chop, whatever zone up there in Seattle and that. And, a big crowd was outside. Somebody jumped the fence, or I don't know how many, at least one that the business owner detained on that. But they looted the place, and all that. The cops were called. Nobody showed up. We played it in reverse because the Seattle Police Department police chief said, well, yeah, we got a call, but the cops went out there and said nobody, we didn't see anything. We showed the video on that where there was, probably 30 or 40 people out there, showed the vandalism and everything else. So what my question is, the reverse side of this is, the Black Lives Matter, the protesters are defund the police, we'll take care of it, da-da-da-da-da, they're brutal, they're racist, yada, yada, yada. The question I ask in the second part is, well, why do we need police if when they are called for the situations, like I've said in this deal, in the first place, they should have stopped the rioting and everything point blank when it first started and not let it grow. But now as this comes on, if the cops are not going to show up when you call them for a situation we pay them to handle, then on the flip side, if you are in Seattle, why would you be paying for a police department?
Well, we might be seeing something that's a little bit similar to blue flu. We might be seeing police officers try to send the message that defunding the departments and demonizing the police doesn't solve the problems that society is trying to solve here. So I don't know the details of that particular situation, but I did see a report from Bill Mallusion of Channel 11 in Los Angeles that police are not showing up at their MTA posts for the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. There are a number of police officers who are assigned daily to be on the buses and trains, and they're just not showing up. And the reason for that is they were told they wouldn't be paid for it because there's no money in the budget for the overtime hours that they're putting in. So they'll be given comp time. Well, they don't want comp time. They want to be paid for working. This is dangerous, difficult work. And so, within the limits of the contract that they have signed, the collective bargaining agreement, I guess not showing up for work sometimes is a form of protest. And I don't really blame them for protesting. This is a failure of leadership in every community. This is a failure of the mayors and the city councils and the county supervisors and the governor. This is a failure of leadership because the problem that we are trying to solve is racial disparity in law enforcement. You do not want to have deadly racial disparities. You don't want people killed because the situation was handled in a different way based on race. You don't want to escalate a situation based on what people think will happen, which is based on race. That has to end. And this is a conversation we've been having in this country from coast to coast since the end of the Civil War. Racial disparities are not legal, period, in law enforcement. So by both sides going off in these other directions, by the mayors and the city council saying, oh yeah, we'll defund the police, and all the corporations saying, we're going to donate money to these nonprofit organizations. And I got this ridiculous email from a shoe company showing high-heeled pumps in 12 different skin colors. Really? Is that the problem we're trying to solve? We don't have enough Band-Aids in multiple skin colors? This is a distraction, and the statues is a distraction, and none of it is going to get us where we need to be, which is a society where we do not have racial disparities in law enforcement. That's the problem we have to solve first. And I just got an email today from a climate activist organization. They're going to join a march on Juneteenth in support of defunding the police. Now, what does climate change policy have to do with defunding the police? Nothing. So you're just seeing marching and people attaching their causes to the news story of the day, and none of that is going to solve anything. Why is this happening? Because we have no leadership. No one trusts our elected officials, and with some justification. And they are just careening around from position to position, talking about raising taxes on one minute and then talking about defunding the police department in the next minute, and leaving businesses like the one you described totally open and vulnerable. And this is happening in multiple states, but like everything else, it's a little worse in California. And it's so unfortunate, because what's going to happen is we're going to go through this whole cycle, and at the end of it, we're going to have a blue ribbon panel and a report that nobody reads, and nothing's going to change.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, things are going to be changing somewhere. Maybe the cops are sending a signal. If they are, then they should not. To me, it's disingenuous for the police chief of Seattle to say, "Well, would the cops drove by and there was nothing there? Would they drive by 3 hours later after the deal was all done, of that, and to say they didn't see no disturbance or whatever? I mean, again, it's the whole thing of what's going on, and I do agree with you. There's a lack of leadership, and I think it was started from the beginning of this thing, where our politicians and law enforcement agencies did not put the kibosh on this whole rioting thing when it first started. They backed off, especially, and they're still backing off in this Chop area, the area where there's still violence and everything else going on, basic anarchy going on in this whole area, and we're doing nothing. I mean, what would take it personally? Everybody doesn't. Well, that's up in Seattle, 1,500 miles, 1,500 miles away, or whatever. What if that comes to your neighborhood?
Right.
Well, it could come anywhere, and the elected officials are terrified, and they're acting terrified, and they're visibly terrified, and that's not helpful. We don't pay them to be terrified in the face of anarchy. We pay them to uphold the United States Constitution and the state constitution and the various city charters, and those all call for the protection of life, liberty, and property. That is a fundamental part of the job. And if they don't like it and they don't want to do it, they should resign, and someone who wants to do the job can run for it. But this is unacceptable, that property is being destroyed and elected officials are making speeches about love. This is no good. I understand that they don't want to escalate anything and make it worse. There's justification for that. However, some of the things that have been done, for instance, Mayor Garcetti initially said he didn't want the National Guard. He didn't think that was appropriate. This is not 1992, was his statement. Well, that statement was only operable for about 3 hours, and then I think the governor called and said, "You want the National Guard, don't you?" So credit to the governor if that's what happened, because what the mayor did was essentially issue a public invitation to the whole world to come and loot in Los Angeles, because he was saying, we're not going to stop you. We don't have the manpower, and we're not asking for the manpower, and we're not going to stop you. Well, that's just reckless. It's just reckless. That's not leadership. And this has been handled about as badly from the initial incident in Minneapolis, where the officers were fired but no charges were brought, and 4 days went by before anyone was arrested. Any of the officers were arrested for that, and that's when all of this energy began to accumulate in the streets. It was handled improperly by elected leadership, and that is why it's so spinning out of control. And I read someone emailed me and said, "When is this going to end?" He was talking about the desecration statues. When is this going to end?
I hope you have the answer to that.
Well, I emailed back, when it gets within 20 yards of Mount Rushmore, that'll be the end of it. I hope that's true. I don't really know, but I would imagine that if rioters get to Mount Rushmore and they get within 20 yards of those statues with spray paint cans, that someone in South Dakota will end that.
Wouldn't that be awful, though? That would be horrible.
Well, what would
I wouldn't be surprised, but that would be awful.
The same logic. You could desecrate the statues of every founding father based on the history of the United States if that's the position you think is morally just. It's ridiculous to say that, because history is what it is, and everyone in life has flaws and makes wrong decisions and tries to correct it and tries to do better. And if you choose to look back and see only the wrong decisions and only the flaws, and you ignore all the people who fought on the side to make it better, the flag stands for them too. If you ignore all of that, then you're just lying. You're just lying to people and saying that all of American history is a crime scene. That's just nonsense. And it makes people seize quietly at home until Election Day, and then wildly unexpected things happen. Huge turnout, unexpected evictions of incumbents. All kinds of things happen when people sit at home quietly seizing, which I would imagine is what's happening when these statues come down. Christopher Columbus coming down in the California state capitol. Why? Because they just decided. Tony Atkins, the Senate pro tem, decided, and Anthony Rendon, the Assembly Speaker, they just decided it's time, and they're now against Columbus, and they've said they're going to take the statue down. And there was a story crossing the wires today that the Italian-American organizations that backed that statue being there are upset about it, and they want a meeting. And I think the legislative leaders should take that meeting and should hear those concerns, because everybody has sensitivities. And many times, statues are put up for reasons having to do with complex interactions between groups and decisions to honor one group and another group as part of a giant compromise to keep people working together. And now they're just going to walk through and tear everything down, which is thoughtless and reckless.
It's really sad that that we're coming to this across.
It's heartbreaking for me to raise my 4 boys in a world like this. I mean, there's so much anger and hate, and I'm sitting here trying to teach them to give back to their community and love their world, and it's like, but how do you do that? I mean, you lead by example. And
well,
an example of a community.
One thing that would help. I mean, if you look back historically, if a society protected individual rights and treats people as individuals and not as members of a family or members of a race or members of a religion or members of a cult or members of anything, but as individuals, you don't get as much violence and hostility, because there's a path to succeed, there's a path to accomplishment, there's a path to friendship when people are treated as individuals. But if you begin by saying you're in this group at birth and you're in that group at birth, and this is the history you have to carry around and begrudge the rest of your life, here's the chip that you get to carry on your shoulder because you were born into this group. If you start with that and you educate 2 generations of kids in that grievance mongering, where, I'm sorry, what are you? Okay, here's your chip. What are you? Here's your chip. Well, if you can't tell what I am, how do you know what's my chip? Well, we have to ask, which group are you in? And here's the history that you have to be resentful about. And you tell children who have no resentments, who are perfectly happy to be on equal terms with everyone, you start educating them about what the chip is that they're supposed to carry on their shoulder based on things that happened before their parents were born, before their grandparents were born. You educate them to hate each other. And here we are. So the answer is to treat people as individuals, which is what the Constitution calls for. Whatever its failures through history, that's where we need to go, is to treat people as individuals and not as members of a group. And get rid of all of this mandatory or prohibited distinctions on which kind of racial discrimination we're going to force people to do and which kind we're not going to allow them to do. And every day it changes. And this is affirmative action law. You know, what are you supposed to do when you recognize someone by race, and what are you not allowed to do when you recognize someone by race? Let's not recognize people by race. Let's just be individuals. That's the only path out of this.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, I've been yes. I mean that.
Why don't you talk like she does?
I think I have a lot of time. I mean,
Susan
how many?
Just has a way of delivering.
Well, I mean, I've said it many times.
Very well said, Susan.
Yeah, so I will say this. Susan says it more eloquently than I do. But I say it all the time. There's only until we get down to the definition. There's only one race, the human race. We're going to keep dealing with this. It's not going to get solved by the way they're doing it. It's just the way they're doing it is perpetuating that. And we went through some of the brain changes in poverty yesterday on yesterday's show, how poverty affects your brain and all that, and how they manipulate you with fear and all this sort of stuff. And that's what they're perpetuating with that. The goal behind this is not to make a harmonious society. It's made for a disharmonious society so they can keep you on the plantation.
Well, this is a very difficult situation. You know, having gotten ourselves into this, we're not going to get out of it in a week or a month or a year. This is a foundational issue having to do with collectivism, having to do with not treating people as individuals and then people being resentful about it. And this is going to be difficult to sort out, but it's going to require leadership, and we should be going back and educating kids in school about the real history of the United States, and not this crime scene type of education where everything was imperialist and horrible, and the world was a wonderful place until the United States was founded. We have to stop that because it's not true, and it's not producing good decisions. When people base their decisions on things that are false, they're always going to reach the opposite of what they intend. So it's not good for them to come at this with wrong information. Anybody, you know, a college student who wants to make a decision about going into a career needs accurate information about everything in order to make a decision. And if you come in, as I said, with a chip on your shoulder about everything, and it's all based on stuff that isn't even true in many cases, or is so distorted and misleading that it might as well be a complete lie, it's not helpful. It doesn't help people achieve what they want to achieve. And it's not fair to take generations of people and waste their time in school on stuff that's only going to serve them badly when they get out.
Yeah, it's terribly distressing what's going on, and as I've said, you know, a lot of times here, it's just like we're, you know, I was thinking it's like with coronavirus, it's like Groundhog Day, we're just repeating the same day, but now it just seems like every day, you know, we're digging ourselves deeper in the hole. This is getting worse. Right. It's not getting better. There's no light at the end of the tunnel on this stuff, and that's what's kind of you know, distressing in this situation is we don't seem to be dealing with the reality of things, and if we don't get that back on track, you know, pray tell, what's going to happen next?
Well, you're right about that. I mean, no one should say that the history of the United States is free from problems. That's not the case, and no one should say that the history of the United States is free from triumphs, because there are tremendous triumphs for human liberty and human prosperity in American history. And we should understand what created those good things and how to preserve those good things while leaving the problems in the past and getting solutions to that. So we should all be working toward the same goal. We all want to live well. We all want to be free. We all want to be in peace and prosperity. And we should work toward that. We should set the world we want to see as we want to see it, and then every policy should be measured. Does that get us there, or does that keep us from getting there? And we should work toward a goal of a better society, a freer society, where people are treated as individuals and can accomplish what they want to accomplish, not what someone else thinks they should accomplish, but what they want to accomplish for themselves and their families. We can get there. We're not doing very well this week, but we can get there.
You got to give them 30 seconds to tell them why they should join Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Oh, because it's one of the only organizations in California you can trust. Just that. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association works every day to protect taxpayers from people in Sacramento who want to raise your taxes. And it's really important this year because on the November ballot, there will be local taxes, there will be state taxes, there will be ballot initiatives that change the Constitution and raise property taxes. Very important to stay vigilant and stay informed and know what you're voting on this November. So join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Go to hjta.org and push the button for Join Us. You'll see flyers and information and election information and all kinds of stuff that we'll be adding to as the election season goes on. And it's the best $15 you will ever spend.
You got it. Thanks for being on. We'll do it again next week, Susan.
Bye, Susan.
Thanks, Roy. Thanks, Stephanie.
And I did put the link in the comments section, too, for hjta.org if you want to go to that link today.
There you go. The best $15 you ever spend. They're the only ones that are out there that are fighting for us.
You know what I think will really help, though, with the world?
What would help with the world? Please.
2020.5.
Yes. That's a good thing.
July 1st. I can't wait. Are we still doing that? That's still a thing, right?
See if you can get that little video thing off of there.
Is that still?
Yes. Well, yes. We need to. We really need to dump on that.
Really, I keep talking about it, but then y'all think I'm just crazy.
Yes.
But no, I'm pumped. We're gonna totally just turn off our minds and reset it, and we're gonna all have peace and harmony, and we're gonna sing like the freaking trolls in the damn movie.
Oh, I knew you'd love my singing. You just couldn't wait for that to. You're just looking for excuse to.
No, I don't want
to for that to.
Leave the singing out. Leave the singing out, please. You're not allowed to sing. Sean will sing for us, right, Sean?
Yeah, Sean will do it on the. Yeah, how do you get that? I wanted to do that story on the.
What story are we trying to do?
On that, but it's got a dingy video that's sitting in the way. No, well, we'll do it anyway. New program helps people of color adopt a white liberal to speak on their behalf. Menlo Park, California. New nonprofit organization is teaming up an app with developers to help people of color find white liberals to speak for them. The program is called Adopt a Voice and will help people of black and brown descents express what they truly desire and think and mean to say. I signed up for it, African-American Braley Trent of Columbus, Ohio. They paired me up with a 37-year-old white girl named Claire who claims to be bisexual, but as far as I can tell, she really likes cats.
What?
When asked for what the opinion of the program are, Claire responded on Bradley's behalf. Bradley is just so grateful they have heard her voice, especially the key issues on climate change. Bradley later commented, I had no idea what the meaning, what I meant to say. Amazing. Adopt a voice. We know speaking and thinking of yourself can be challenging, and we have a huge team of interpreters who know exactly what ethnic minorities are really thinking, what they really want, and what they really mean to say. And a program director, Eve Zolar, said, we know every person of color will have to thank us for what we have to say on their behalf and don't hate. There you go. That's in the Babylon Bee.
I am so confused on all of that. That just happened right there.
That happens to be satire.
What? We gotta put that link in the comments. That's
a satire story to mock the screwy stuff that's going on, and we're gone.
Oh.